talking about how you have the hashpah of Rav Chesed, that regular people like Yidden, because we're the normal ones, but I would say maybe we're the most abnormal things in the world, but we get hashpah from Hashem, from the level upon Him. We said that that things that are from Sitra Achra, etc., they do not get hashpah because they deserve it based on Torah. They get their hashpah from the level of Rav Chesed, that Hashem has abundant kindness. So now we're going to discuss a little bit about what Rav Chesed is. So v'hinei hashpah mifnas Rav Chesed hi hashpah b'ribui. So the sustenance is given from the level of Rav Chesed is a sustenance is given is given plentifully. This is why. This is another answer to the classic age-old question. There's a lot of answers to the classic age-old question. So much so you start to wonder if it's even really a question. There's but every answer is unique. But this is another answer, which is that Yidden, they get their hashpah, or we get our hashpah, because we get based on what we deserve. So a person might have a big schos in them, could give him a lot of hashpah, but in general, people go through their lives getting what they deserve. Once you're off the grid of you get what you deserve, there's no rhythm or rhyme to it. You can get so much more because it's anyways not being given based on a reason. And we're going to discuss that a little bit because it says, it says in Kehelas, that in the grave there is no action and there is no reckoning or calculation, there is no knowledge and there's no wisdom. And this is in the grave. And when we say in the grave, it's the Rebbe Rashab is referring to it allegorically, that the Pasuk in Kehelas is originally saying, Kehelas is a very interesting book, if you haven't read it, 10 out of 10, totally recommend. It's a book of Tanakh. It's classically read on Sukkos by many communities. It's not the custom in Chabad, but it's still a very good book. And Kehelas is very much about how people go about life doing things, and the things that people do in life are stupid, usually, and it ends up amounting to nothing. So in Kehelas and Paraktes, he says basically he's going through a concept how death doesn't really matter because nothing really matters, and it says that there's nothing that ends up making you to the grave. You're going to die anyway, so what's the point of taking anything? What are you trying to accomplish over here? That it makes a difference because when you're in the grave, it doesn't make a difference. The Rebbe Rashab is interpreting it allegorically. He's saying no, when you're in the grave, when you're in the side of death, when you're in the side that isn't kedusha, there's no cheshbon, there's no calculation, there's no reckoning for how much you deserve, and because of that, you could get so much more. And we're going to explain this a little bit.
You take your mitzvahs with you. You don't take your material objects. You take your mitzvahs.
This is the conclusion of Kehelas. This is at the end of Parak Yud Beis. He's going through his observations in Parak Tes, and then he's going to get to. I think Parak Tes is where he goes through Leif Basimcha, Leif Basachmach, whatever. There's a rhythm and a rhyme to it a little bit. But yeah, he says there's no calculation in the grave, and he says that people that are connected to the side of the grave, the people that are connected to Sitra Achra, they receive not based on cheshbon, they receive not based on calculation. There's no reckoning. It says in Meir cheshbon nikres hachachma al shem hamachshava. Cheshbon is called chachma because of the machshava. When we say cheshbon translates to calculation, but the root of the word is the same. The reason why it means calculation is because the root of the word is the same as machshava, chashav, to think, to calculate. The Gemara darsha al pasuk al king yimra moishlim bo cheshbon, and in the Gemara darsha on the pasuk it says that because of this, it says right before Parshas Balak, it says you had Sichon, he was a mighty king. It says that Bilam and his father cursed the residents of Cheshbon so that Sichon should be able to take over the city. So it says, therefore those who say parables referring to Bilam and his father, they said Boyu Cheshbon. They come to Cheshbon, which literally means there was an actual city named Cheshbon, and it says that Sichon is coming to Cheshbon. He's going to conquer it. Boyu v'nachshel Cheshbon shel olam. Go and calculate the calculation of the world. Hefsin mitzvah neged skara skara avera neged seder. The value of a mitzvah, or the loss of a mitzvah relative to the value, and the reward of an avera relative to the loss. The cheshbon zeh when we bechinas chachma, the reis in chachma nafkas, we bechinas kav hamida. Because this cheshbon is from the level of chachma. Hashem's wisdom. And Torah comes from chachma. And it's the level of the measuring stick. Because from this reasoning, from this wisdom, it's the yardstick of how much hashpah ruchnius and gashmius comes down, how much spiritual and physical sustenance comes down into the world. And the concept of the weight and the measure is the concept of the inclusion of chesed and gvura. Because, and we're going to explain this as Hashem soon. I think we're getting to it soon in the sequence of my marm. But in order for a person to have a proper hashpah, there needs to be an inclusion of chesed and gvura. Imagine if, like, I don't know if they say it on the news over here, but like if it's raining, if there's like a big storm, they'll say, oh, it's supposed to rain 12 inches over the next week, right? Imagine if instead of it raining 12 inches over the week, a sheet of rain 12 inches thick came down.
In one go.
In one go. Houses would be destroyed. People would die if they were on the streets. If there were any crops in the fields, forget about it. They would be completely blown. They would be completely knocked over. Now, in the fields, I'm sure that having 12 inches of rain over a dispersed amount of time is very, very, very beneficial. But if you have too much at once, it just destroys all of the crops. That's one example. But I know that later it's coming. We're going to have many examples of this. But it's one example of how you need an inclusion of chesed and gvura. Gvura is restraint. Gvura is withholding. And it's not enough to have just the hashpah, that you have the rain. You need to have also the measure with which it's given. So we're saying that the Indian of the weight and the measure is that you need to have a proper inclusion of chesed and gvura so you can know how it comes down into the world. And with this, you're able to draw down. You're able to draw down a measurement of the midas, as we said. As for example, with sustenance in banei chai or mizene. And how the hashpah should come down and in which way. Like it says that the food of a person is set for him on Rosh Hashanah. This is going to become a big theme later. It's in the brackets. It says shah. I assume that it's this is definitely something that's going to be discussed later. These are all important things, so bear them in mind. The fact that a person's food is decided from Rosh Hashanah. So he says that this is all decided based on a person's avodah. This all happens based on, as in the judgment and the law that's prescribed about how much hashpah you should get, and how it's in the way of chesed, or if it's in the way of gvura, if things are more withheld, if things are more supplied. It's all based on the actions that a person does. But this is only for Yidden. As it says in the pasuk, he causes he turns over his causes and with his plots, his actions. Rashi explains what does this mean. It was very poetic, probably the most poetic sefer of Tanakh. Rashi says, this is like what the Chachamim said. If the Yidden were tzaddikim on Rosh Hashanah, and Hashem decided that they deserve a lot of rain, the Seif Chazru, and then they turn around. The Maridan Shalei Bizmanan ala Aretz. Then Hashem will take the rain that He promised to the Yidden. He did say how much rain the Yidden are going to get in the following year, and He's going to give it at a bad time for the land. And if the Yidden Taka they weren't doing good Rosh Hashanah, so they didn't get a large amount of rain, but they do tshuva, Hashem will take that small amount of rain and He'll give it at the perfect opportune time so that it could be able to help the land. So this is what it means when it says that Hashem turns over His reasons and His plots to cause action. That even if on Rosh Hashanah it's decided that that the Yidden or a person gets a certain hashpah in a certain way, Hashem could always try to manipulate the hashpah in a way to make it better for the Yid. If afterwards the Yid does shuvah, or if the Yid does bad, then Hashem could chas v'shalom, yeah.
And I don't know if we get into it after, but vice versa, I guess, to an extent.
Yeah, vice versa, yeah. It was there, Pasuk there, and there comments on the Pasuk from Eiv. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Misabu V'Sivuvin V'Aisi Evdin Ba'al L'Skayama. So Hashem causes, like he plans, and he causes things in the world in order to sustain it. When people think that things that are causing, things that happen in the world are going to stand, then Hashem will turn over those things that happen to return them to the way that they were originally. Hainu shakeri haderes veiron l'skayim gender mabel v'mchashvashi kayam l'olam v'kilkul ma'aseim v'vitlam v'afachim me'akiyum al leider eracham. So he says that this is like a commentary on Zerach al Erachama, and he says, like, for example, that you had the generation of the Mabel that Hashem created. They thought that they were going to last forever, but they did bad things, and so Hashem returned them to the way they were, which is mud. So the word Sachaloisav in the pasuk in Eiv is missing a yud. The iu tikla the stacharas kameh. It is like a wheel that turns before him. If the people do good in their actions, then the wheel he turns to his right. And if and they do things in the world so they can continue doing good in the world. If people come and they do bad, he turns the wheel to the left, and will come up with plans, etc., to destroy them. And he causes things to happen in the world to cause bad for mankind. Until the people are forced to improve what they do. So this is a passage from the Zohar that he comments on the pasuk in Eiv. So the concept is, what is this wheel? Apparently, this wheel, the wheel of fortune. I guess you could say, like Taka, there's a wheel of actual fortune, and if a person does good, Hashem will turn it to the right, and if he does bad, Hashem will turn it to the left. What is this wheel? The concept is the wheel is the level of Malchus Vatzilos, which we referred to before. Malchus Vatzilos is a big deal, and we're going to discuss a lot about Malchus Vatzilos in this entire Hamshech. It's very, very, very important. And it is the source of Hashpah for the worlds of Biyah. It's the source of everything that comes down past Atzilus, which we said before. Atzilus is the last world to which Hashem, that's what Hashem reaches. The last world to which and Seif reaches without needing to be Mitzumsum so much that you could actually have the existence of bad. Malchus of Atzilus is the last level. It's so last that you could even say that you could almost say that it's no longer attached, and that it's still, it's the beginning of the Amshach of the Chut, and it's really, really at the edge of the Hashpah, or of the of and Seif. And it turns according to what people do. That if they do good, if they do good, then the wheel will turn to them to the right. Then the wheel will turn to the right. It says, it says for sure somewhere, but there's the classic diagram of the spheres that you have the 3 and the 3 and the 3, and then you have the dot underneath. So he says that when it says that the wheel turns to the right, it means that it turns to the Kafa Yamin, which is the side that has Chokhmah, and the side that has Chesed, and the side that has Netzach. And these are generally seen to be Hashpah, positive, that things are actually drawn down into the world. So if a person does good, then the sphere of Malchus Vatzilos is mashpia from Atzilus. It gives sustenance from Atzilus, and it becomes a conduit. It's like you have a pipe through it, and you're changing the direction that the pipe flows. And you could put the Hashpah into the right side, into Chesed. You could put the Hashpah into the left side, into Gvura. And when a person does good, Hashem turns the wheel so that the Hashpah, so that the spout is facing the right, so that it'll go through the right side. And then you have the level of iskabros chasadim, that the kindness, that the hashpah moves through kindness, so the kindness becomes stronger. And therefore kindness is supplied to the world down here. And if there is no arousal from below, when people don't do good, then they cause that with their actions, that the level of malchus should receive from the level of the malchus should receive from the level of kavasmel. That is to say that it gives hashpah to the kavasmel. It gives its hashpah through the left side. Because everything depends on the actions that we do down here. Any questions?
It kind of, just going back to when we were talking about Rosh Hashanah, how the rain is made or is set for him, basically in today's, whether you're panasa and things like that, good and bad. Are you kind of saying that, like how we talked about a kli before, you have to create a kli to actually be given those blessings. So you, effectively on Rosh Hashanah, Hashem allocates you those blessings, but if you don't continue to make that kli, then they don't come to you whatsoever.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And it's interesting to think, because you see in the example, there's all of the hashpah, but if a person doesn't own a field, then he's not going to be able to accomplish anything. There's a classic joke, there's a person, and he prayed every single day for 40 years that he should win the lottery. And he kept on praying, and it came to a certain point, he was literally feeling so dejected by Hashem that he's davening for 40 years, and he didn't even win $20. And finally, after 40 years, he falls asleep, he has a dream, he has a vision, and an angel comes to him, and the angel says, I have a message for you from God. And he says, finally, after 40 years, and the angel says, yes, after 40 years, God has one simple question for you. Why have you never gone out and purchased the lottery ticket? Because you need to have something, and so you have the rain is the hashpah, etc. Having all of the rain allotted to you in the world doesn't help if you don't own land and you don't have a field that's properly tilled and properly sown, etc., etc. These are all things that you need to do to prepare for the hashpah. And not only that, but a person, besides for having all of the hashpah up there, a person needs to make a proper conduit spiritually for the blessings to come down. If a person doesn't do things good, then the hashpah that's up there won't be able to come down in a proper way. But ultimately, yes, it's important that a person has hashpah up there. It's important that it comes down in a positive way, and it's important that a person has a keli down here. Any questions now? We'll go to the kitzur, and if not, the kitzur, hashpah del chesed hu b'ribei shaloi al pi cheshbon. The sustenance of Rav Chesed is in abundance because it's given not based on reasoning. There's no calculation for it. Cheshbon, and the calculation is chokhmah. It's wisdom. Come and calculate the calculation of the world. Because all sustenance that comes into the world comes through the yardstick of Torah. A person is judged every day, every hour, according to his actions. And because in this depends the reception of the sustenance that he receives from the level of malchus, whether it goes to the right side, which is good, or it goes to the left side, which is bad.
So
all right.
Man is judged every hour?
This is an important detail, and we're going to get to it later, as Hashem, I think in the 20s.
Okay. Got a while.
So that's Hashem.